Well, greetings this morning from the American Orthodontic Society, and this is Dr. Bill Wyatt, and we'll be talking about torquing teeth. And this is something many people that are way into orthodontics know how to do torquing, but people who are kind of out away from it or just getting into it, torquing teeth sometimes can be confusing. And I want to show how we actually torque teeth and what we have to do to them to get it to do the right thing you want. And the method we have working with teeth now, you can do anything to any teeth within reason from the cradle to the grave. And people's teeth will move as long as they're living. And you can do these things and doing adult orthodontics and restorative dentistry, where we can slide the back teeth up and put them in places where teeth are missing. If you have wisdom teeth or teeth behind them, you can close these spaces, and you can check these videos that we've done where we have actually worked on people's teeth into their 90s, but it never started anybody that late. So let's get back to torquing teeth. And I'm going to draw pictures of these teeth. And I'm going to just open up a case here. Now this is just a black area. Now when we use this Big Daddy arch wire, which is just a large arch wire, we can expand it, we make it fit the teeth to start with, and then you expand it out and it pulls it, and it always has all kind of lateral force. It can bring the teeth out on anybody. You can increase the lateral force to spread the teeth out using this Big Daddy arch wire. But the torquing at that point is confusing. If you just use the bar in there and you bring it in and it brings the teeth out, then it tilts the teeth like this, and the teeth operate inside the bone structure. And if you're up above and you're spreading them, the outside part, the crown, will go out like this, but the root will move in sometime. Well, it moves in anytime. And then that's where your airway is. So when you expand with a Big Daddy arch wire, you've got to bring the teeth out bodily in this fashion, and that increases the airway up here on a person. Most of these people that have this problem breathe through their mouth, and their maxilla, the upper teeth, do not expand properly. In other words, they are breathing through their mouth, and you don't swallow like you would. And you're breathing air over the tongue, and your tongue stays in the lower arch, and it widens out more. And you look at a model on anybody that's a chronic mouth breather, and I can show you the lower teeth will be out as far as the upper teeth, and maybe even further in some of these cases. So you need to learn how to torque the teeth. If you just put the big wire on, let me kind of draw what I'm talking about here. If we just make a large molar tooth here, now this would be on the lower arch, and we'd something like that. Now, always think about orthodontic things in a third dimension. And when you do something over here, you got something on the other side, you got the same situation over here that you have over there. Now, so I didn't get them the right height. So we have this large wire we call a Big Daddy. I didn't name it, but somebody did. You build it to fit against the teeth, and then you expand it and push it in together to pull the teeth, to expand them out to the side. Now this round wire has no ability to torque the teeth, except that it will give them a positive torque, but it leans the tooth out in this direction. The roots of the teeth now are in bone structure, and we'll have to, I wish they were the same height. Now, you build this wire where it fits in here, but that's not where you get your torquing of these teeth. If you use this large arch wire, I don't know if I can erase that or not, but what you've got to do, we'll have to kind of, let me get rid of that. Can I erase part of it? That's, I'm going to erase this right here. Okay. All right. Okay, we're back in business again now. I've drawn this back. The object in here is that we want to expand these teeth. And that's in case you had narrow lower teeth. So we'll show this, how we would expand this, and want to bring the roots out as you expand it. So you want to carry these roots out as you bring the crown out. Now, the big wire that we use, we call a Big Daddy, has, and you're going to think in terms of 3 dimensions now. Just think of everything that you're doing here in 3 dimensions. Now you can pull this wire in, this large wire over here. You can pull it in and hook it up and make it fit. And then when you get ready, you bend it way out and you'll push it in maybe a half or 3/4 of an inch in on each side and bring the teeth, bring it up against the teeth. Then it's going to pull the teeth out in this direction. Now the Big Daddy arch wire always can give you more lateral expansion. That's if you're going out in this direction. If you need more, you just take the wire and straighten it out further, and you put it in, and it'll pull the teeth out in that fashion. Now, so if you use this for expanding teeth, you have to put a rectangular arch wire in and put this large wire on top of it. So you'd come into, your bracket would be coming off of the teeth, something like this on a deal. And you come up here, so your bracket would be down. I can't draw it real good on here, but you have to put torque in this bracket. And I have found the easiest way to figure out how you want the torque would be to say here's a big root tooth and here's the bracket sticking out. Now I want the root of this tooth to be pushed against the cortical bone down on this side of the tooth. And it'll push the bone on the other side of the tooth. You do the same thing with it. So we'll be expanding the tooth in this direction, and you want the roots to go in this direction also. Now, if we just put torque in this, and you can put your finger up, and that'll be the bracket slot right in here. Now, what would I have to do to this bracket that's tied on that tooth to make that tooth go out this way and push this root out? So we'd have to bend the tooth, bend the wire. We go back with progressive torque. From the distal to the cuspid, you catch it with a plier, and the other end of it, you're going to bend it up this way. In other words, you're going to twist it, and that would make the tooth go that way. But the tooth is in bone, and the crown is in the air. And if you put buccal root torque on a molar, in other words, you end up with this arch wire being something like that, and you've got to bend it down and put it in that slot, then that arch wire is going to try to do this to the tooth. Now the root is in bone structure in here, and the crown is in the air, and the arch wire itself does not have lateral expansion strength to bring it out. And so instead of getting buccal root torque, this thing would move the crown in this direction. In other words, this would lean over because it can't move in the bone like moving in the air. And this torque that you've got it, you level it down like that, and it's wanting to do the tooth in this direction. And so it would push the crown over. So in other words, your crown would go back in this direction over here. But we don't want that to happen. We want to widen it out. So you pick this large wire right here and come in after you put this in, and this is trying to tilt the tooth here. Then we move this wire over and tie it to the teeth over here. Now this will carry this out in this direction regardless of how much force the torque is giving it. And you watch the tooth. If you're moving it buccally, and that's what you want, especially up above to increase the airway. You want it widened, and you want the force to be there. If the arch, the big daddy wire is so much stronger than the other one, and it starts to lean where the roof of your tooth would be like this, it'll tilt it would lean the tooth over, and it'd be hitting on the lingual cusp. And you see that beginning to happen. Then you reduce this force, or you increase your torquing force. And so we want to carry this tooth over, and on the other side, you want these cusps to stay the same. And we'll go, they would be over here like that, and they'll stay the same if you've got the right amount of force on the torqued wire that you put in here, and then the arch wire, the big daddy, is pushing out here with a certain amount of force. And you can regulate that much easier than taking the arch wire out. So you go in and reduce this, and that'll keep the thing going bodily, and you carry this tooth out like that. And it'll do the same thing over here. In other words, the tooth would be something like this, and the roots come in, you could widen the tooth in this fashion. Now down on the bottom arch, it's not quite as much of a problem as it is on the upper arch. The upper arch is where you go in. I'll put this back up here, and let's draw this tooth now like it's have your tooth would be here, and your roots are going up in this fashion. Maybe they'd be in the bone structure there, and you got another one over here. And the roots going up down like that. Now, if we go to widen it, and you put this large arch wire in there and tied it to the tooth, these teeth would go out like that. You'd pull them over here. The roots are in the bone. They would go lingual to some extent and reduce your airway, but we want to spread them out and make them go out in this fashion to increase the airway or restore the airway like it originally was, where you got the mouth breather and the guy's swallowing, but he doesn't push out with his tongue to expand the arch, and so his upper teeth will drop inside of his lower teeth to some extent, or maybe completely go inside like that. Now, okay, so we have to do the torquing. You're going to have a bracket come out from the tooth, and that's not a very good way to get it. But the bracket comes out in a straight wire. It's straight out here. So to make this root go in this direction is what we're trying to do with this rectangular wire. So you come up to the tooth from the upper side, and we want this tooth to move like this. In other words, we want to do that. So that's where the arch wire should be bent from the back of the cuspid all the way to the last molar back here. And you may want to come out and do this. You need more force at the back than you need at the front, because your arch is going to stretch out like this. And it doesn't move these teeth very much, but it'll actually drop the vault in here to some extent. And so you want it to go out in this fashion, and you want to keep the roots going with the crown. So you want to do that. The arch wire coming through this would have to be like that. In other words, we'd have it coming down like this. And at the end of it, you're going to take this and level it out. We're going to level it out, then put it in this slot. And that rectangular wire is going to want to move that tooth in this direction. But the root is in the bone, and if you don't put something to back it up, this wire, you can straighten it all the way out. It has very little lateral force, but it has a lot of force torquing. And so you level it out and you put it into this slot right here. And now it's trying to put the roots out in this fashion. It's trying to move this teeth out in that fashion. But it's going to hit here, and the crown will move back. So instead of getting buccal root torque, you get lingual crown torque if you did not support that. So we can support it with this large arch wire. Pull it over here. We will not let this crown go in. It'll expand the crown at the same speed that you expand the roots. And this is the way it works, and it be this way anytime. I mean, 100 years from now, you do the same thing to this, and that's the way the tooth is going to move. But you've got to back up the Big Daddy arch wire. Don't think that you can put it on. If you just want a little bit of expansion, you can just put it on and it'll pull it over a little bit. Or if the tooth was leaning, like if you got over a tooth that was set kind of like this, and the root was, no, I was going the wrong way, and skip this over here. Now if this tooth were leaning in, the roots up in this fashion. You could take this and expand this tooth, just put the big wire on here. It'll pull this tooth over to where it sits like this. The roots would be up like that. You can pull it over that way. But we want to expand upper teeth. We want it going out so that it spreads out the facial structure. Up above is where your airway is, and you need more airway on many of these cases. So I hope you understand something about torquing teeth. There's just a lot of things you need to understand torquing. And if you torque them, and that the arch wire itself won't have strength enough, and it will push the crown in the air, and the roots will stay in the bone structure. In fact, they'll go the wrong direction. So I hope you learn how to torque by using the Big Daddy arch wire. You have to have a rectangular wire with progressive torque that makes the root go to the bone, and then you'll have that force, and it'll move the bone and the teeth all at one time. I thank you for coming in and joining our group and subscribe to our channel. And the Big Daddy arch wire always can be increased the amount of lateral expansion anytime you want to. You can just take it out, straighten it out, put it back in there with it, and it'll give you all the lateral expansion you want. It won't let the crown go in, but if you put this buccal root torque and put it just on the arch wire, it will move the tooth lingual. Thank you for watching now, and I hope you understand what we're trying to get across here. So I'll say goodbye for the time, and I hope you will tune in to our channel. And we have almost 900 videos now, and we've covered every aspect of orthodontics, from the temporal mandibular joint problem to the grave on there. And don't think that you can do orthodontics and ignore the temporal mandibular joint. You cannot. And that ought to be taught to every dentist. I don't care what kind of dental work you're doing, you ought to understand the joint back here. So I'll say goodbye, and we'll hope to see you again in another video. So thank you for coming. Bye-bye.